So in today's Warthunder video, we have some very important news for Warthunder regarding a easy anti-cheat replacement. We also have a ton of news whenever it comes to BVVD, which is giving us information of what is going to come to Warthunder in the future, what they're thinking about working on right now, and all kind of different little things. So we're going to be covering all this today in the video because I think it's incredibly important because, well, it's going to be what is Warthunder in 2025, which is always cool to see and also cool to experience at the same time. So the first thing we're going to cover is the new anti-cheat coming, which is going to be Battle Eye. If you don't know what Battle Eye is, it is in games like Armor 3, DayZ that I can remember, and it's still a anti-cheat that gets bypassed. I think they even added it to GTA 5 lately, and they're still cheaters. So in my opinion, this is just my opinion, it really doesn't matter what anti-cheat you go to, it's going to be cracked in like 2 or 3 days, and people are going to be able to cheat again. It's not really going to replace anything unless they want to go to something like Valorant and completely negate a lot of people's privacy and basically try to get a kernel anti-cheat onto a system, and where they basically can control the computer, and if that anti-cheat gets hacked or something, well, a lot of your data will probably get stolen, just like Valorant and a bunch of Riot games have been doing in the past. But in my opinion, Battle Eye is going to be a very interesting one because, well, I'm not really thinking this is going to do anything when it comes to cheaters like actually getting cheats. But what it might do is it might make people to where they can't play the game. For example, if you play with certain like programs or something, it might false flag it, ban you, and then you lose your account for like 2 or 3 months. It's, in my opinion, not a great anti-cheat, and for me at least, I don't really see this doing anything other than, well, they're just going to have like a week of no cheating because people have to rewrite the code for their cheats, and then, well, they'll come right back and cheat again. So that's my opinion on it. Like, they say it's not going to do anything. Like, you can still use sound modifications. Will Battle Eye like affect performance? Probably it will, even though they say it won't. Like, you have a ton of different things, and if you want to know something even funny, here's my funny thing. Many online games are in use Battle Eye, including one of Gaijin Gives, Enlisted. You know what the funny thing about this is? Enlisted, outlisted. Number 3, which is meaning they banned 3 lists of these people. Greetings, Commanders. As we promised in our first outlisted, here's a list of players who've been banned from using forbidden modifications. And yeah, they go through how to report people and all that sort of stuff. So it's not even like fixed enlisted, and it's such a smaller game compared to Warthunder that I feel like, well, it's not really going to do much. But yeah, Battle Eye is coming. Maybe it will work, maybe it won't. I don't really have a huge opinion on it, other than it's not really going to do much. So we'll have to see how that kind of goes. But for more important news, we have BVVD here, which is doing covert disclosures again, which is going to be a game director. So if you don't know who Vladislav Blenikov is, he is the game director of Warthunder, which is a very important role because basically everything that comes into Warthunder goes through him first, and it gets approved, and he basically has the best insight of the game itself. So yeah, before we get into the actual discussion for BVVD, they do have a free Snail decal. All you have to do is put in a code and you'll be able to do it. I'll put it on the screen now, and then also check for a pinned comment for this video if you just want to copy paste it, and it'll also have a link on how to redeem it. Alright, so the first thing to talk about here is the major update, and basically it was because of ray tracing of why it took so long and development issues and all kind of stuff like that. It's really not important, it's just really what they talked about when they had an update. The first thing that they actually talk about of importance is the missile evade message. I know for a lot of people, I've seen that they don't want this at all because it kind of is a little bit of a cheese, especially if you have smokeless mortar missiles and you shoot at somebody and it tells them that they evaded a missile and then they realize they're behind you. So at least for now, it's going to be disabled in simulator, and then for the rest of the mode, you'll be able to toggle it off or on if you want to have it on. I assume it's going to be better for you, but at the same time, if you want to get rid of it, you can. The next thing is asking for Soviet top-tier jet improvements. Currently, regarding statistics, U.S. aircraft are in the lead with Soviet aircraft slightly behind. The question is, how slightly behind? But at the same time, it doesn't seem like they want to actually introduce any more updates to Russian aircraft as of right now because, well, they say that it will drastically in the other direction. So it is a little bit something for that. I assume America is probably going to be the mainstay of top tier for a very long time, or let's just say American aircraft is going to be the mainstay of top tier for a very long time. But at the same time, it would be nice to see more of a balance when it comes to aircraft in general, but we have to see that in the future. The next one is newly added helicopters lacking new damage models. I assume it's like the new helicopters they put in. I don't know. In my opinion, I believe they should have probably came in the game with those, but at the same time, it's a little bit interesting. So now here's something that I'm very interested in, which is the new player card that they added. Our goal when the developers first started working on the new player card was to make it more simplistic and without information overload. In my opinion, I feel like the older one really wasn't that like advanced to like understand. I mean, maybe there was some of the statistics like PvP rating and everything that would be a little bit of an issue, especially for like newer players and everything. But for me at least, I kind of like the old one now. Like compared to this new one that they say that they're just going to update. Like we're not going to read this whole thing because it's kind of just a waste of time. But if we look at like their pictures right here, they have a vehicle collector that they're going to be adding back in, which shows how many vehicles that you have in every nation. But there's something that's missing. Where is the spaded ones? For a lot of people, that's what mainly is missing for them right now, is they cannot see how many vehicles they have spaded per nation, and they can't see which vehicles they have per nation, which I think, to me at least, is a little bit sad. But yeah, I mean, like the whole profile system, at least for right now, is very bare bones. It's worse than the one that we had before, which I think they should have just waited until they had a profile system which actually worked and then put it in fully instead of making micro changes to it to where, yeah, it just looks really bad. Like even now when they say they're going to do the vehicle collector, like spaded vehicles aren't even here. Like that's what mainly people complained about with this new thing. But yeah, once again, they said that they're going to put in the new thing where you can see how many bombs you dropped, how many that you shot down, like the nuclear bombs. And then also you'll be able to like change your game mode. PvP rating is back. So yeah, I mean, like if you want to say that you want simplicity, like tell players what PvP rating even is, because most people probably don't even know. You can do a favorite vehicle, which is pretty fun as well. Also, Jesus Christ, that is a lot of battles for for that one ship. Oh, Jesus. 234,000 battles. Yeah, I highly doubt anyone actually has that, but um, you do you, Gaijin. That's kind of funny, actually. So the next thing they talk about is profile backgrounds and avatar customization. It seems like it's going to be something very similar to Enlisted. If you've ever played Enlisted, you can have little avatar things that you can put on your profile, and it basically just does that. I'll probably show some in this video if I have any on hand. But yeah, it's just going to be a new way to spend some G, 500 to 1,000 G. Prices might change, and yeah, that's all kind of stuff. The KV7 versus KV7 event reflections. The dev team and the CM team collaborated in this event to create it together with experience with a new type of event where the same vehicle versus itself. Honestly, if you want a really good time, take two 75 jumbos and make them face themselves, because each one of those tanks can only pin themselves from the front in like one little bitty area, unless they get on the side of them and they're able to shoot. But yeah, that's incredibly funny if you've never played with that. Like take a friend or something, go into like abandoned factory and just slog it out with each other, trying to hit each other's MG port. It's so fun to play. But yeah, the thing about the KV7 event is that, well, it wasn't worth anyone's time because they only gave away 12 IS7s. So for a lot of people, they just wasted their time, except for 12 lucky people that should probably go buy a lottery card. But at the same time, I mean, like, it's a cool event. It was different, and that's always a good thing. So now we're on to the Q&A with Warthunder's game director Vyacheslav Blinikov, which is a BVVD, which is the person who basically makes all of the decisions for Warthunder. And these are going to be some of the most important things, because it is 13 questions on what is going to go forward in 2025, which is always going to be a good thing. So the first question is, Abandoned Factory has received beautiful new visuals. Are there any plans to give older maps visual updates in the future? And the answer to that is probably always going to be yes. Really, to me at least, a pointless kind of question, because we know that's going to happen constantly over time. So the next question is, Warthunder is constantly expanding with new vehicles from other nations, which are implemented into nations already in the game. But are there any plans for separate standalone nations in the future, in addition to the 10 already present within the game? And the answer to that is sadly yes. And the reason I say that sadly, because there's really not any like nation that you can add fully. So I'm assuming it's probably going to be that like European tech tree that was leaked, of where it's multiple nations just slammed into one tech tree. So that's my assumption from it. You really can't add a standalone tech tree at this point. Israel was a failure because, well, it basically has a bunch of holes in it. It should have just been an American subtree, but as you see right now, it is a tech tree by itself, and no one really ever plays it because it's a poor one to play. And the only people who do buy a top tier premium for it and just try to get the top tier because it's easy to get the top tier in that nation. And that's literally the only reason people play Israel. That, like, you have a couple people who actually enjoy the tech tree, but at the same time, it would have been so much better if it just remained as an American subtree. But I think the bigger things that should say within this is, but next year we'll be focused on filling in the gaps in existing trees, which I think is really cool. That means a possibility of multitude of things, meaning that we go back to like World War II tanks, we go back to Cold War tanks, we go back to Cold War aircraft, because a lot of those aircraft are missing. And honestly, to me at least, I am more focused on this one right here, because I think this is more important. But yeah, they're going to be adding more subtrees in the 2025 period as well. So I assume what's probably going to happen is in 2026, we'll probably see the new tech trees that they're talking about. And like I said, there's no way that they add just like an individual tech tree anymore. They're going to combine it with like 2 or 3 other nations just so they have lineups and so they have vehicles to actually grind out. Because whenever you look at any tech tree right now, there's a lot of them which just don't have any appeal. Like seriously, go look at any of these nations which like copy paste vehicles from Russia, copy paste vehicles from America. Like they're just not going to be fun. You're going to have multiple nations within one nation to make it to where like those tech trees will even try to work. But honestly, in my opinion, I really wish they would just put them in as sub trees like they do with majority of the content in the game now, because well, one, you don't have to worry about crew skills, you get really good lineups because they're already existing nations, and then also you don't have to grind like seriously hard because well, maybe you're at top tier within a nation, you can just go back and get the vehicles themselves. Like the South African ground tree, 100% one of my favorite additions to the game, just because I was already playing Britain and I just get more vehicles included with Britain, which to me at least is just really cool. But yeah, we're going to get a new nation. Woo! Definitely am so excited for another stock grind with crews again. The next one is, it's been a while since there's been any information surrounding World War mode. Well, because it kills the game every time they put it in. The servers just completely die. Every single time World War mode comes in, boom, the servers are down for like 8 hours. What are the plans for the mode? Will it come back in some capacity? We're developing a new World War mode. I hope we can tell you more about it early 2025. So if you want to know the leaks so far, I believe it was like an Iraq or something World War mode. Honestly, in my opinion, if they just like keep the same gist that World War mode was, of where it's some like competitive, almost like esports mode, of where squadrons kind of battle it out, to me at least, it's just going to be a failure again. But we'll see what it is. I really wish they would like actually make it into something to where it can be played constantly instead of being a season thing, because well, as you see, it doesn't really work. Every time they put it in, it kills the servers. Every time they put it in, people just aren't interested in it. And then every time people put it, or they put it in, well, guess what? People just want the reward. So the next question we have here is, with the addition of the F-117 being a very cool but novel aircraft, will we see more additions like these, such as interesting vehicles that don't really fit well into the meta? Obviously, or well, here's the answer. Obviously, these types of aircraft that are not very fit for the meta cannot be a regular addition to the game, except for if they can make money. Since we try to please as many players as possible with updates, but these types of vehicles will appear from time to time, including some interesting things that are already planned for 2025 that can make money. There you go. There's your answer to that one. That one's like, I hate this sort of like answer to it, because clearly it's just a question of like, well, if people want it and people will spend like $40 to get it, well, we'll put it into the game, even though it might completely kill a battle rating bracket for the sake of putting in a vehicle people would spend money on. I should just say that. There's the answer to that question. So the next question here is about AI ticket bleed. I'm not really going to go over the whole thing because it's like super long, and basically they just say we monitor their average time of battles. But the thing I feel like more people talk about this sort of like issue and this problem with the AI ticket bleed is it really feels bad whenever a game is like super close and it's almost like a 1 versus 1 or 1 versus 2, and the tickets are so low to where just like the enemy can go attack like 2 or 3 ground targets and just win the game. So for me at least, that's why I think people are kind of like upset with AI ticket bleed, because those games of where it's like super close don't really feel super close if you can just go kill 2 ground targets and win. So I feel like that's probably like what the problem is for more people when it comes to this sort of thing. But at the same time, hopefully they can fix it in time. It's also very sad whenever it's like AI that does it and they kill the ground targets and the game's just over, even though like you're both like, you know, 1 versus 1, and like it's just really fun. Like, but yeah, that's probably what they mean by that. Honestly, in my opinion, I'm not going to comment on it, but at the same time, I do know it's incredibly annoying. All right, so next question is about a roadmap. All this is just like jargon. I'm not really going to cover it, but here's what we need to know. As for the current roadmap, we plan to complete most of the remaining parts for the second major update in 2025. Fair enough. Like, all this wasn't really needed of how you like gather data and stuff, but yeah, it's coming in the second like major update in 2025, which I think is probably like the same time the other one came in. Maybe it was a little bit earlier, but same time, it's a roadmap. All right, now here's another favorite one. In ground RB battles, our top attack aircraft are capable of dominating ground vehicles for the most part. Are there any plans to do something about this in 2025? I just made a video about this, and I was told by some people that CAS is fine. And here's their answer. According to our data, the balance at top ranks of ground battles is noticeably shifted towards aviation. So what do you got to say now? Whenever the actual person who can run this game says that top ranks of ground battles is noticeably shifted towards aviation. Oh, we're just going to say that like SPAA is overpowered now? Is that what we're going to go back to? Oh, the Panzer. It's so OP. Yet you have a vehicle right now, or you have a couple of vehicles that can outrange all of these SPA. And the only thing that can maybe stop them is a Panzer. And even then, you can just swarm them with GBU guided bombs right now. But yeah, they talk about the situation where aircraft can attack tanks from a safe distance when impunity makes gameplay more boring for aviation. Boring. Oh yeah, it's very boring seeing like 10 or 9 kills within your kill feed after you shot off all your Mavericks and you jumped all your or you dropped all your GBU bombs. Yeah, sure. Boring, they say. But it's a less fair fight for ground vehicles. Yes, it is. There's literally nothing you can do with a tank right now to counter a vehicle which has Mavericks, which has GBUs, which has guided bombs, which have any of the Russian cave whatever rounds. Like, there's nothing you can do as a ground vehicle. What are you supposed to do in your little Abrams? Just like shoot your little impact round at them, see if like maybe that kills them. But yeah, they're just out of range. They're like 15 kilometers away. So yeah, it's a it's very concerning of just how top tier CAS has been, and I'm so glad at least now we have a reliable source on it saying yeah, it is bad. So at least in this dev blog or within this community manager thing, they do actually start talking about what their solutions to this is. And to counter these types of threats, more powerful systems are needed to have the ability to fire at several targets at once and a wide search area in azimuth and elevation, which I honestly agree with. If there is an option for a better SPA for these nations, they definitely need it right now because, like I said, CAS is overperforming, and even Gaijin themselves have said it now, and hopefully in the future we start seeing those sort of things. Like, there's people who want anti-radiation missiles. They do talk about it within this thing as well. Like, literally, like, you can outrange majority of the SPAs right now. Like, why would you need anti-radiation missiles? Like, man, like, I really hope they fix this in the future because I do want to go play top tier again. I do want to play some of the like Leopard 2A7s. I want to play the T90M. I want to play some of the Leclercs. I want to play Israel. I really want to play these vehicles, but right now, whenever you just go play it, and majority of like people just jump into an aircraft because, well, they know they can do extremely well in it. Like, it just defeats the whole purpose of the mode right now. And I feel like that definitely needs to be fixed. And hopefully in the future, we do see fixes for top tier, at least when it comes to CAS. The next question is about naval. Are there any plans to implement naval for China, Sweden, Israel in 2025? No. You want to know why? Go look at the actual CBT of the French naval coastal and also the blue water. It was an epic failure. Minor nation naval trees are not going to get any money. There's your answer to it. We plan on focus on the logical completion of blue water tech trees by adding the most famous and powerful battleships. So Yamato, Iowa, Alabama. Yeah, maybe the Bismarck. Assume that's probably what's going to happen. In parallel, we'll work on implementing other types of ships and weapons that are not presented in Warthunder. So maybe we'll see some like very early type like Cold War missile machines, but at the same time, in the next thing to talk about here is that they're not really going to add long-range anti-ship missiles, so we have to see what kind of weapon systems they are. So next question is, blue water fleet trees are mostly seen in editions of pre-World War One, World War II ships, or are we going to see Cold War modern ships 2025? The game already has ships from Cold War. Like I tell everyone who ever says about war, like Cold War vehicles, but they just want the rocket ships. They just want to be able to basically, like, here's the thing. There's some naval players right now that want to play naval like it's top tier ground battles of where you just have weapon systems that can outrange the other ship and there's nothing you can do against it. So, you know what we're going to do? We're just going to shift the problem that we already see within ground forces and just shift it straight to naval. So hopefully they never add any of these vehicles where it's just insane like missile machines to where they can outrange all like guns or anything. Like, I don't know. I personally have seen Warthunder Mobile gameplay of these missile ships and they don't seem fun. And even Warthunder Mobile has like cheese systems of where you can like put a smoke screen in front of you just randomly. So yeah, I definitely feel like that's going to be some issues with adding those sort of vehicles. The next question for naval is, submarines were tested some years ago. They were actually tested a couple what like a months ago actually at this point. Are there any plans to add playable submarines to naval battles are in some form in the game? Yes, subs have been worked on. What a surprise. They did an event about it with the Silent Thunder event. They did a ton of different events with subs. They're probably going to come at some point. Okay, next question I think is actually kind of important because is frame generation planned to come to the game? For many, this will boost game performance, especially when using ray tracing. And then also people are using like 4060s and stuff. This will actually help them as well. If you don't know what frame generation is, it's basically fake frames of where whenever you're playing your game, it kind of like uses the graphics card itself to say, well, there might be this frame next, so it's going to put it there. So there's technically more frames within your gameplay. So for example, it helps a lot of games like Cyberpunk where you're wanting to run ray tracing and everything. You can actually turn frame generation on and it's able to make it to where it's playable. Now the question about it is I've never really played a multiplayer game with frame generation. I'm not really sure how the like performance is when it comes to latency and all that sort of stuff, but I would definitely love to see how it is when it comes to Warthunder. And even if there's more latency and all that sort of stuff with the frame generation, it will help people at least run the game, which I think overall is a huge positive. The next question is going to talk about more improvements to ray tracing and all that sort of stuff. We have several areas which we're working on graphics. Firstly, there are improvements to ray tracing and the implementation of RT on all platforms, including this technology next year. So basically just going to put on ray tracing. I believe the AMD cards right now have some issues. Xbox as well has some issues with the ray tracing stuff. So yeah, they should do that. But yeah, they're going to be upgrading graphics. That's kind of a given at this point as well. So next one is APCR. APCR is generally seen as a weak round. Yes, but at the same time, it still has a purpose, which is the whole key of APCR. I don't think it should ever be considered like a main round for different vehicles, but making it always redundant when another round is available. Yes, because it has a niche scenario of when you use APCR. You shoot it at flat armor, which is heavily armored. Stuff like the Yag Tigers, stuff like Tiger 2s. You have the 90mm, you have the 90mm and the 105s. Like, yes, you can use APCR in certain scenarios, and I think APCR is perfectly fine the way it is. It should never be like a main round that you would use. Like it's fine. Like I don't know why people complain about it. I understand why they complain about it, but at the same time, it's fine. Like basically it. So the next thing is new event vehicles. We're nearing the end of 2024 now, which means one more event vehicle to come. This time for the winter event, we'll have 4 vehicles instead of the 3 mentioned at the beginning of this year: 1 tank, 2 aircraft, and 1 ship. Please keep an eye out on the news for the come. I believe it's already been leaked about what's coming, so I'm not going to say it because it's not proven yet. So you can go look it up on probably Reddit or something. But at the same time, we're getting 4 vehicles for the winter event, which means a lot of XP is going to have to be ground out, and a lot of score is going to have to be ground out to get those vehicles done. 2025 plans in the near future, we're going to be revealing some information about our plans for upcoming vehicles in 2025. This primarily be about top tier SPA for all nations. Good, thank you. We'll be working with developers to produce an article with information about this, so keep an eye out in the future. I really hope they can add something that fixes it, man. If not, it's just going to be such a sad place to play. Like I totally agree. The next major update, usually we'll see a major update this month. The devs are working on some cool vehicles that hopefully you'll enjoy. Keep an eye out. So yeah, that's a cool thing. The entire Warthunder team. Yep. Okay. So that is the end for the covert disclosures, at least from BVVD. There's a lot of cool things within this dev blog. There's a lot of cool things that I think are answered for a lot of people. Once again, if you want some free stuff, there's a free Snail decal. It is this one right here, the secret document one. So make sure to put that in with either the code, or it will be in the comment section with a pinned comment and a link to where you can redeem it. So what do you guys think about this? Is it something that you're actually excited for? I think a lot of this stuff is actually pretty cool to see. At the same time, I am still questioning a lot of things, especially the top tier SPA issue. I'm wondering if we'll start seeing vehicles like the Patriot and all that sort of stuff to counter a bunch of CAS for Warthunder, but we'll just have to see how everything does. So I do hope everyone has a wonderful day, and we'll see you guys in the next Warthunder video.